Welcome to Pattern Love Day. It's a day I made up as an alternative to Valentine's Day, I suppose. And I don't know, I did it last year and it was kind of fun. It coincides a bit with Bonnie Christine's immersion pre-enrollment and such. So I always have a conversation with Bonnie annually. And I thought I might as well, let's expand this. And like right now, my world is all about surface pattern design because I am designing the next issue, which is issue 65, which has the 6th edition of the Surface Pattern Design Guide within it. So I've just finished reviewing all 790 entrants, and the quality of the submissions was excellent overall. And my partners have gone through and except for one person, they've all made their selections for their recipients of the various opportunities. So I'm not at liberty to share those yet because I have to still contact all the winners, and then I will narrow down the top 100 people that will be featured in this next issue, and then I'll contact everybody who submitted with their results. But I'm very grateful to have had a really great showing and excellent work for me to choose from, which makes it hard sometimes. Yeah, I'm very grateful that this continues to be a topic that we all adore. So welcome to people who just joined. I thought we would start the day with some warm-ups. And if you've got a pencil and paper, that's all you need really. But mostly it's, warming up your brain. And these are ideas and kind of methods that I use when I'm coming up with themes for Uppercase magazine. So, each issue of the magazine typically has 2 themes. So there's one like major theme that's more of a visual motif or a concept that's bringing it all together. And then I select a more subtle theme that might be an emotional thing or a more conceptual idea. And then I pair the two and I bounce ideas off of them. I go off on tangents. I find similarities. I look at the thing from all different angles. And then that's how I start curating the content for the issue. So I've kind of summarized some of these ideas here in the context of surface pattern design. If you have questions along the way, just drop them in the chat and we can discuss. And when I'm done going through these slides, then I will stop sharing this and then we can all go on screen and unmute ourselves and have a discussion. Okay, so here's some pattern prompts, 3 things. So this is a real basic way of generating ideas where you take 3 different things and you put them together and see what happens. So for me, when I'm thinking about pattern design, I'm thinking about color, I'm thinking about shape, like what is the motif that we're repeating, and then what is the mood or the style that we're trying to communicate. So I thought it would be fun to create some lists together. So we've got the 3 categories of color, shape, and mood. And then in the chat, you are welcome to, we'll start with color. Write down some ideas for color, but let's try and be like, instead of like red, I've decided scarlet. So we'll be like a little bit more poetic, a little bit more not stating the obvious, right? Periwinkle, excellent. I love periwinkle. So we have room for a few here, so I'll jot down a few. Oops. Cool, that's interesting. Cynthia, I think I have room for one more. I'll do flamingo pink since like pink and red are my my colors of the day. All right, and then now let's do some shapes. So I suggested petals. So like, florals are a recurring motif in surface design. So petal makes me think of, this is one of my fabrics from Wyndham from a long time ago. And this is like just basically, I call this design ice floral. And it was inspired by ice crystals and then repeating them and then becoming a floral. So That's an example, like crystal. Okay, so a house. Okay, that's an interesting shape. Teardrops. Honeycomb. Classic. Honeycomb. Curly Q. And waves. I'll put waves. Okay. And then let's think of some moods. So I was feeling pensive last night when I put this together. So what other moods can we think about that might be kind of strange or interesting to think of in context of surface pattern design? Fiery, meditative. I think that's sort of like pensive, so I'll leave that there. Dark, bubbly as a mood is interesting. Moody as a mood is funny. Atmospheric, curious, brilliant. Um, Atmospheric is moody. Oops, in the wrong window. Atmospheric, romantic, sure, because it's Valentine's Day. Okay, so there. Now we've got this list of things, and so if we look at them, we might think, well, the most obvious things to pair might be like scarlet, petal, and romantic, for example. But that'd be fairly generic. So what if we pair them, or there's trios, what if we make a trio that's a little bit less obvious? So if you could do scarlet, petal, and dark, so like a moody dark floral pattern that has scarlet reds in it. Or let's say teardrops, you might think that that pairs with periwinkle, but what if you're using chartreuse teardrops and you're trying to make something that is fiery? Now that would be a real challenge. Like, how can you make things that are like kind of a cool color still have the mood of being fiery? What would that mean? So sepia, waves, pensive, like that. So that's how I would start to associate some new possibilities for doing a surface design. And this is just like for a creative warm-up. It might lead to something that you can use down the road, or it might just be something fun that gets your hand moving, gets your ideas flowing. But I like this concept of just brainstorming a list and then selecting from each one and seeing what you can do. It kind of reminds me of the math that I'm homeschooling my son, and we were doing permutations and combinations. So here you go. You have a lot of different possibilities with this list. So we'll return to this later, and now I'll just go on to the next idea, and I will share a PDF of all this at the end. Okay, I Spy. Again, a classic game, I Spy with my little eye, something that is, right? And so you look around and you try and make the other person guess what you're looking at. So if you play this with yourself and look at your surroundings. So I have 3 different exercises in this section, I think. So number 1, what's your favorite object? So like look around at your desk in your room, on your shelf. You can't see my desk, but it's got stuff all over it. So what's your favorite object in your immediate vicinity? And why does it appeal to you? What's its story? Like, how did you get it? Why do you have it? What does it do for you? Study its color, its shape, its texture, and emotional resonance. And then, without looking at the object again, draw it or create an impression of it by heart. And then use that as a motif in a pattern design, that loose impression. So rather than creating like a literal interpretation of something, make it loose, make it of your memory, make it of coming from your heart. What is the emotional connection to it? So on my desk, I have this, which is like a ceramic pot for putting your pens in. and it's by Dritz or something, like it's mass produced. But why this is special to me is I saw this when I was working on my Notions book last year, because I was researching different companies that make sewing notions, and Dritz has been one of the companies for, I think, since the last century or before that, late 1800s. Anyway, they make this cute little pot that's it's a shape of a thimble. And oh, that was so cute. And I showed my son Finley, like, oh, isn't this cute? And then that Christmas, he got it for me. And it was so sweet that he remembered that I liked this thing. And it was just a random thing that I showed him one day, and he bought it. And so that's lovely. So that's on my desk. And so that means a lot to me. And it's an object it's like a shape that's really easy as far as a design goes, like it's a thimble, but it's also a plant pot, or it's also a pen holder or something. So I would like, I'm holding it, caressing it, admiring it, and then I put it away, can't see it, and then I would do an impression of what that is and what it means to me. So in this case, maybe instead of drawing it, I would get some embroidery thread, for example, and make an embroidery impression of it, something like that, so that I'm not trying to right now I just have like my ink pen, and that would create a very specific style that isn't speaking of the emotional quality that this thing has to me. So I might take some yarn or thread and use that to try and depict it. I might try some paint or something else that's a little less delineated. So that's just a way of interpreting something that has a more of an emotional response than just a literal one. And I have to say that when I'm going through all of the surface pattern design entries, there are lots of common motifs that you see, like flowers of number one and birds of all sorts of shapes and sizes. Bunnies was a big theme that I saw in these entries. But the ones that I remember and the ones that resonate with me had something about them that wasn't just here's an object in repeat. It was something that had like a human touch to it. It had some sort of story. It was soulful. You could tell that it meant something to the person who had rendered it. So that's, I think, what makes for a pattern that has that little bit of extra humanness to it. So this is an exercise that might help loosen that aspect up. Part of the I Spy ideas here is look at it differently. So what are the common motifs or themes that you often return to in your own pattern designs? Are they florals or birds, or are they abstract? Examine these things from a different perspective. So from above, from below, from like the other side of it, from underneath, inside out. Imagine you're like microscopic and you're inside the object looking around it. Imagine you're in space looking down at this thing. Think of it from new perspectives. You can also think of it from somebody else's perspective. Like, for example, if you always are drawing flowers and you approach them from a certain way, like what if you're doing a surface pattern design of flowers from the perspective of a bee, for example, or of a bird? How does that change how you would render your drawing? And then you can do things like, flip it, reverse it, make the object transparent if it isn't necessarily like that. What if it's blurry? What if parts of it are really sharp? Like, you can play with how that form is represented. Then with color, you can invert the color, saturate or desaturate it, use unnatural or strange color palette that you wouldn't normally associate with this thing. Use all the colors, be like throw them all there, or then use no colors and just be monotone. So those are ways of looking at things differently, and I think it can yield some unexpected results. And it doesn't necessarily mean that your entire pattern would be like strange and unnatural, but maybe there's an element in there that one of these motifs has a bit of a strange color to it, and that adds some overall personality to the pattern that you are creating. Here's an exercise that you can do later in the day, a personal catalog of patterns. So I wore my my patternful shirt, and if I look in my closet, the majority of things that I have patterns on them. So using your phone, you can go around and make a personal catalog of patterns. So just crop everything out so that you're just taking a picture of like just the pattern. And you might see it like, you know, on the upholstery or a quilt or on your clothing or on books, on your backpack, and just take pictures of the pattern only. And then when you've done that, you have this catalog. You can scroll through it on your phone, or if you want to, you could export them and put them like all in one document so you can look at them. And then what are the common themes on the things that you like and the things that you're living with? Like maybe they're patterns that, you know, they're on your other members of your family, like on other people's clothing and stuff, but what are you surrounded with right now? And kind of do an evaluation of it, like what makes them beautiful, what do you like about them, what don't you like of them, what are the common color palettes, what are the different styles that you're living with. And then without copying anything specifically, design a pattern that would feel right at home in the context of your personal catalog. So it's a bit of that this one would take a while to do for sure, because it's fairly immersive. But I think we're always curating like what we buy, our clothing. I see people have like patterned scarves on, for example, or you know, like jewelry if you wear it, or the kinds of books and magazines that you that you like, right? You're curating pattern and you're bringing it into your life. So it's worthwhile to look at it once in a while and see what is it that I like. And you'll see stuff, you know, in the back of your closet. Maybe there's things that you used to like and you don't like it anymore. So why don't you? What has changed? How have you changed? How have styles changed? I think it's useful as professional surface pattern designers for us to be aware of the things in our lives and what's successful, you know, in our own opinions. Okay, all right, here's a new idea for prompts. Most recent. What's the most recent book, movie, or walk or meal that you've had? And think about it in retrospect. So I'm sure like when you're eating breakfast this morning, you weren't really thinking about service pattern design, I'm assuming. Maybe you were. If you were, let me know in the chat. But think about like go back in your browsing history is what I'm trying, like a metaphor of thinking about like, okay, what did I look at today so far? What did I look at last night? Is there anything that's coming to me now that could inspire surface pattern design? So this morning, for example, I had a bowl of Cheerios. So Cheerios are those are a natural element to make a pattern out of, the idea of like the donut Cheerio, for example, and the roundness of the bowl and the circularity of the spoon. Like I could start, you know, as a warm up for this morning, I could think of like, okay, well, how can I be inspired by that shape and make something with it? Or I can think about last night, I watched a movie or a show on Netflix, and it was about women in World War One in France and all the turmoil they had to suffer through. And so there's a lot of like there's lots of nuns in it. So there's like religious symbols, and there's lots of they're wearing white habits and light blue, and then there's all the blood splatter of all the people they have to take care of from the war injury. So that's dramatic. How could that inspire a pattern? I don't know if it would, but I could think of like the contrast between the red and the blue, for example. That might be something I could start with, or I could research a bit more about, you know, the French in World War One, for example. So that's something like I was watching last night. I had no intention of it becoming something other than I'm trying to be entertained, but you can look at your browsing history and think back to stuff that you just looked at and see, is there something there? And you'll always find something because we're just like always collecting ideas. It's up to us to kind of unearth them and to pay attention to them. So another example is like on my walk today, it's well, it stopped snowing now, but it's sort of snowing and it's cold, and I had my ski pants on, and you know, I do the same walk every day. It's the same route. So if I think about like what was different about it this morning. What was unusual is I didn't see the typical number of people and people walking their dogs because it's too cold. So what if I'm thinking about, okay, well, how about cold puppies snuggled at home when everybody else is having to go off to the office in their cars and the dog's at home? Like, so what could I do with that as a pattern? Or the obvious, like the tracks of people in the snow or people shoveling their walk and there's like big scrapes on the sidewalk, that sort of thing. So, there are retroactive ideas that I could draw upon from that. And then of course, the next step would be next time you go for a walk, next time you're eating your meal, next time you're watching a show, is to be more cognizant of the media and the experiences that you're consuming and think of them as potential opportunities for new ideas. Adjacent. So this is more likely what I use for curating the magazine, where I come up with one idea and then explore ideas that are adjacent to it. So for example, in context of pattern design, so choose a motif in your mind, just quick, whatever comes to mind first, and then you jot it down in the middle of the page. And it's sort of like we're making a mind map, but then what's the next thing that this inspires you, and you write it down. And then you look at those two words and what do they inspire, and you write the next things down. And you stay within this ever-growing circle of ideas that become like an orbit around your central idea. When I say like be literal and non-literal, be funny, be serious, you might think of like a quote that this idea inspires, or a book, or a train of like I don't know, like a topic that's the same but different in some way. Adjacent ideas. And then how many adjacent thoughts and concepts can you do like in a limited amount of time? So like a quick 1 minute or 5 minutes, or if you need longer. It's not really about, it's about creating a constraint. So like if I'm saying petals is my theme, my motif, and like I'm writing down things for 1 minute, and then you evaluate and see, have I thought of everything regarding to petals that are adjacent to the idea of petals? Do you need more time? You can add more time in and do some more brainstorming. But see if this can like offer some clarity to your original idea, and maybe it just opens up more, like a larger world of possibilities, and there's more things that you can explore. And then you have like at the end, you'll have like a mind map, and that could guide you to express that original idea in a more full way. And now here's sort of similar, but instead of staying on a focus on like on a petal, for example, this time we're going to go off on a tangent on purpose. So you would start with your central motif that you did in the previous exercise and write it down, but this time at the top of the page. And then thinking about that, let your mind go wandering off, and on purpose, just write like, what's the next strange thing that you're thinking about that's tangential or obliquely related to the first thing. And then just keep reacting to the ideas that you've written down. And then you'll have a list, and hopefully it's strange and weird and that you've started one thing and you've ended up somewhere else because you're going on tangents. And then at the end, look at your first word and the last thing and see if there's some way that you can bring those two things together into a concept. So that one's a fun one. And I do that with the magazine, and it's like no one's gonna know that's how like my brain goes off, and then I end up with this thing at the end. It doesn't matter to the reader that I went through all like these strange ideas before I came up with what I have, but along the way it helps me interpret a theme in new ways. It helps me unearth ideas that I had that were kind of latent or hidden that I wasn't paying attention to, because if I just stayed on the surface, it would be kind of predictable. So thinking things like this and going off on purposeful tangential explorations I think is a good way of really understanding a topic in new ways. All right, and at random, logically nonsensical. Okay, so this is obviously, I think we do this naturally, but like a random idea generator where you look at your around the room or pick up a book and like, what's the first, I say four things that you look at, and that it triggers like, okay, calculator, butterfly, paint tube, coffee mug, right? Like, okay, so I have those four things. And then make some pairings of them and to see, can you combine two of those into something? So it's strange and weird, but that's sort of like a surrealist way of thinking where it's odd and it doesn't make any sense. And the point of it not making sense, that's why you're doing it. So like the two things I saw, okay, I got butterflies and I got a really ugly calculator. That is so weird. And I know I've never seen a pattern with butterflies and calculators before. I'm sure that why would that exist? But maybe it should, right? Like, what can I do with it? Like, so random thing off the top of my head, like what if did these keys, are they butterfly wings? Is it somehow like are the butterflies calculating by how many times they flap their wing, they're communicating a number? Like, I don't know. Like I can just think strange and weird thoughts and be like a surrealist and come up with something that's odd, that has never existed in the universe before, which I think is kind of cool. So the other thing I got, the other thing was paint pot. So I've got like a tube of paint here, and I've got a coffee mug. Like, okay, this is weird too. Maybe not as much like you might put your paint tubes in your mug, but what does it mean? How strange is that? Or maybe more naturally would be like, okay, pairing a butterfly with a paint tube. Like I could have, a few of these coming out and they like a butterfly, right? I don't know, I just made that up right now. And that's the sort of thing that you can train yourself to do. Like there's literally no shortage of ideas out there or in you. And if you do like regular exercises to enhance that part of your thinking, you will never have trouble coming up with ideas. The trouble is curating them and deciding which ones are the good ones and which ones you want to spend time with. But actually generating ideas is quite easy. And now I'm going to, oops, I didn't, that's, I'm on the wrong screen there. There we go. And now we'll open it up for some discussions, and I'd love to hear your ideas for idea generation and warming up your creative brains. And then if we have time, we'll go back to the one with the lists that we've created and we can do some drawing on that. So I'm going to stop sharing for a sec here. So I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, okay. So if you want to share how you generate ideas, I'd love to hear other people's ideas. You can put them in the chat, but it would be nice if you're feeling brave to just unmute yourself and say hello. I would like that. I appreciate it.
Janine, hello. I've already unmuted myself. I don't want to be necessarily the first, but
yes, go ahead.
Stop me. Hi, I'm Barbie from Austria, and quite often my ideas for a pattern they start with a story. So I've been used to telling our small daughter stories all along. She's 17 now, and the stories they keep coming. She's not that interested anymore in these stories, but I have these stories, and then from that I derive ideas for patterns. So I had one all along with Zoe when she was very little, and we have episodes, and it's Fiona, a small girl from Mars. She's blood red, and she had her her spaceship, and she went off the current path and landed on Earth. So, and I have stories with that. She meets a boy and blah blah and so on. So that is stories I have, and they are vast pots of ideas. That's one of my approaches to patterns. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a lovely idea, especially that you're carrying it on, even if your daughter has outgrown them a bit. I love it. I do something similar with Finley. I've been doing this since he was really, really small, but like for bedtime, I had like once upon a time, there was a little boy named Finley who liked to wear stripes and go to the coffee shop with his mom and dad. One day on the way to the coffee shop, he found a penny on the sidewalk, and that's how it starts every single time. And then the penny is magical sometimes. Sometimes it's just a penny and he can, or it turns into more money. He can go buy himself a muffin at the coffee shop. Sometimes it's like embedded in the sidewalk, and like there's all sorts of different scenarios, but that basic structure of what I just said, then the story starts. And so when he was younger and we had to do like a whole big bedtime routine, we would do that. And then we'd come up with ideas every night about what would happen when Finley found the magical penny. So it's like a similar
Yeah,
idea.
and
You create a
it creates
structure.
images, right? Because you draw these images by telling the story, and you can derive colors and forms and the mood along with it, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And this world is, it's a very specific one that you've created, but you can share it with the rest of us through what you illustrate and how it emerges out of your brain existence into a reality that you've created through drawing.
Mm.
Yeah. Thank you, Barbie, for being first and for sharing that.
Thank you.
I see Karen has a hand up. Karen Mastriano. Oh, yeah. Hi.
Hi, yeah, that's me. Sorry. Excuse me. I'm just starting to get sick, so I'm kind of still in bed. Sorry. But I just wanted to say that first of all, those ideas kind of blew my mind. Like I really love the idea of the random idea generator. Um, I actually find I'm just such an observer. Like when we were sitting here talking, I just watched two deer run by my window and with the tails up in the air, and it's like, ooh, what could I do with that? So I feel like I'm constantly looking at what's in my immediate environment. I live in a country setting, but I work in New York City. So I get this dichotomy between the two, and I find really inspirational. That sort of urban landscape versus the natural landscape, and how can I merge them? I think that is, I mean, talk about two opposing ideas.
Mhm.
Definitely. So that's one of the ways that I do it. I just keep an eye out for everything and try and think about those opposing ideas and how I can merge them.
Excellent. And deers are a very nice, wonderful creature to be inspired by, from all their visual majesty and the fawns and their spots and the white-tailed deers and their big ears. Yeah, there's,
Yeah.
there's lots in there. Um, I see, okay, Abby Morales has her hand up. She'd like to share her thoughts. Hi, Abby.
Hi, Janine. So I wanted to share that I usually like to carry around a little sketchbook like this, where I put columns, and in one I give like animals, actions, and a place, and I make lists in every column, and I put a number in every item. And what I like to do is, like, if I'm with like kids or just random people, I like to ask them, like, okay, give me a number from 1 to 10, and I will say, then I will get the animal, then another one, then I will get the action, and then another one, and then I will get the place. And with those ideas, I will generate something that probably I wouldn't come out at the first place. It will be like something like a cat. I have here like a cat eating sushi in a restaurant now, or what's that? A porcupine reading a books with glasses and things like that. So I think that's very funny, and I really like to ask that also, like to children, what they would like to see. I get the opportunity to work with children giving English classes, and usually I will ask them what they want for the coloring page, and I will get like the initial idea, and then I will tell them, okay, so you want a dinosaur. What's the dinosaur like? And he's like, big. Okay, is he happy or is he angry? No, he's angry. Okay, what's behind the dinosaur? A volcano. And those kind of things that will help me, like, not only depend on my imagination, but like kind of have it as a dialogue.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And when you're asking kids, they like the sillier and the more ridiculous, the better. And they'll come up
Yes.
with things that you would normally not go there, but the kids will prompt some funny ideas for sure. And then, you know, if you're at your home and you don't have people to randomly ask for, you can of course, you know, cut up everything into different piles and then draw, you know, from different piles, or close your eyes and, you know, pick that way. Yeah, like I like the randomness of it is what makes it fun.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Abby. Um,
Welcome.
I have Diane. I see your hand is up. Diane DeBell.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I loved hearing about the adjacent and the tangent,
Thank
because I'm
you.
sitting here and I'm looking up at a game called Telestrations that we play at my house, and it's so interesting. One of my daughters is really good at fine arts, and when we play the game, no one wants to sit next to her when we play this game because you draw and pass around. It's a game like telephone, and it just made me think of, like, for those two ways to get a prompt, a little bit like Abby was saying, the whole time you were talking about those two, I kept thinking how fun it would be to engage my family, because they have always such good ideas, and they're always like, draw this, do, you know, we just went here, why don't you draw this? And to engage them in a kind of brainstorming idea really quick, because they love playing with words. And I just thought that would be really fun, because usually I'm out getting inspiration when we're outside and in nature, and typically it's like in gardens. Recently, though, we moved from the city in Chicago to the beach in New Jersey to the shore, and the landscape so different.
Mhm.
So that's been an inspiration as well. Just getting outside, being outside. Um, so thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Diane. Yeah, I think, you know, why shouldn't we engage our family and our creativity? I think, you know, other perspectives and people who know us so well, you know, it's interesting to have them give us creative prompts. Um, like my son, he's 14, almost 15. Next month he'll be 15. It's hard to believe, but you know, when he has the, you know, you get sort of bored and he comes to me, what should I do, Mom? What should I do? And like, I don't know, what do you want to do? What should you do? What do you feel like doing? Do you want me to give you a list? Like I can give you a list. But having that dialogue with him about like, well, what should you do next? Like I should go ask him once in a while. Hey Finley, what should I do next? Right? And like get his perspective on what I should do. It'll probably involve like making him food, but that's what he's into right now is eating. Let's see, we've got Susan. I see your digital hand is up. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Welcome.
I'd never considered, doing something from a story before, so this is really fascinating. So thank you. it made me think though, when my daughter was 4 or 5 and our cat passed away, and she's like, Mama, where did the kitty go? And I'm like, okay, I got a couple minutes. Um, and this cat, although she loved my daughter and me, she was awful. We called her the Black Princess of Death because she attacked everybody. So my response to her was, we got her ashes, we dug a hole and put her in it in her favorite spot outside. And she's like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, well, so she can look down on us. Meanwhile, I'm thinking that bitch is down there looking up at us. And I mean, the kid was happy as a clam that I had a story. And then as I think about, patterns and things like that, I could do the urn, I could do the location, I could do a sleeping kitty. I mean, it just really prompted many different ideas that I never would have thought of if the child hadn't asked. So thank you for that. A little morbid, but still, why not?
Well, yeah, why not? Like it's something that we unfortunately all experience if we have a pet, that they don't last
Yeah, one
forever
time
with
she
us.
wanted to know what happened the tooth fairy did with the teeth. And
Hmm.
the answer I gave her, I just was floored because like 2 days later, Barney used the same story.
Oh,
So
really?
it can be out there in the universe.
But not from you specifically. So
True.
that you always have your own personal take on things and your own style and method of delivering it. And not every idea needs to be for the greater world. Maybe this specifically to your family. It's always still to express your creativity and to like honor the events in your life, even when they're sad or strange, like your cat.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see Christine has her hand up. Christine Mulder.
Hi there.
Hi.
Thanks for doing this. Some great ideas. I'm looking forward to trying some. What
Hi.
I've done for a really long time, I have a little box and I have created some little cards in there. They're in piles or whatever. And one pile is shapes. There's one shape on each little card. One pile is colors. One pile is like style of line, like squiggle or zigzag or whatever. And so I have these little piles, and you pick one from each pile, and then I limit myself to a 5x5 piece of paper. And then I can only use that shape or that color or that line, and try to create something with that. And the limitations somehow seem to free up my creativity, where if I'm trying to incorporate from a lot of different things, I just get stuck. So I like your ideas of like going around the room and just picking one or two things in the room to look at and then try to figure out, what I can do with that. So anyway, I think this is great. Thanks for doing this. I'm having a great time and I'm loving everybody's ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine. Yeah, I think I'm a graphic designer, and being a graphic designer, it's always about the limitations. Like you have to constrain things, and especially as a print designer, where you're constrained by the size of the page and how many pages. And what I love about Uppercase magazine is that it has the format of it like this, and the size of it that's always the same. And some people like, well, how come you haven't redesigned all the masthead in all these years? Like other magazines change their mastheads. Like this is like, I need this to be the same every time, because it's within that container that I can become more creative. If I'm always thinking I need to redesign the whole container every time, the mental toll on that would be like exhausting, and I would not be able to do it. But if you have these constraints, like you said, like a small 5x5 sheet of paper, when you only get the ideas from the cards that you've drawn, that is really freeing. When you really just like put some like blinders, like I'm only going to do these things, and within that constraint, I think is really, that's how my brain anyway works, where it will thrive on that. And then you start like pushing against the boundaries a little bit. And I don't know, it's super fun and energizing to think that way. I think I see one more person who has their digital hand up. Sue? Yeah, Sue Selby. Unmute yourself, please.
Hi. So I
Hi,
guess
Sue.
I kind of conventional. I start typically with like a walk in the garden, and there'll be something that'll catch my eye, and then usually color or shape. Very much, I love seed pods. I find the incredible world of the seed, different shapes, different geometry, different architecture is amazing. But then I use the constraint, and I also make handmade books. So I have these teeny tiny books, and I have a 4-inch square page. Just I come back and I draw what I've seen that will fit somehow within the page. And I've been doing this for ages. And then from that drawing, which is kind of Posca marker, and I find that the thoughts will come on paper and don't really come digitally, but then I can transfer that image and then take it into a digital environment. And I just find that really small format. I have lots of these teeny tiny little books with drawings in. Really helps me to just get it out there.
Those look lovely. Can you put a link if you have them like on a website or something, or no?
Yeah, on my Instagram, yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah, everyone feel free to put your Instagrams and such in here, and then I can share the chat later. So I have two things that I promised, like, as prizes, right? And so I was going to do some draws, and I think I'll do them after. I'll just go through the attendee list and I'll do some random draws for everyone who attended. And so I'm going to do a draw for a free subscription or renewal for everyone, and then a draw for $100 gift card for my shop. So I will do that after, and then I will email you. And while you're on the call, I'm going to save my thing here as a PDF, and I'll share a link here in the chat. And if you want to, like, we've got 10 minutes before I'm going to have to conclude this one and take a break before my next event, which is a chat with Bonnie Christine. So hopefully you'll come back and visit with us. So yeah, how about I will put up the screen that has our list of ideas that we came up with. And if you want to just start like noodling on those ideas, you're welcome to. And then just give me like a couple minutes and then I'll post a link for the PDF here. So I'll share my screen again. Yeah. Okay, you can see the list of things that we made, I think. Okay, I've shared a PDF. If someone could just double check on your end that you can actually download it from there, I'd appreciate it because my workspace is really small at the moment. Okay, great. I'm going to stop sharing the screen and just come back so we can see everybody before we say goodbye. Thank you. I'm so glad you enjoyed this. It was it was fun to put together. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, there'll be a recording and I'll share that later. Yeah, it was fun to kind of think about how I create ideas and how what kind of routines and techniques that I use. I know I really wish I had more time to be an artist. Like I am trained. I went to college and studied visual communication, so that was half illustration and half graphic design. And being a graphic designer has always been my main focus. But you know, I used to paint, I used to draw, I used to keep a sketchbook, and I'm really desperately trying to get back to that. But you know, also just you know, accepting that at the moment, my idea generation is mostly through words and lists, and that's how my brain has been trained over the past like 15 plus years now of being an editor of a magazine. And I think that's okay. Like you just, however you generate the ideas, whether they're through words or images or keeping a sketchbook or having like me, I use it like a digital tool to keep track of my ideas. I think the important thing is just nurturing that aspect of yourself that likes to come up with new ideas. Like it's just so fun to come up with new ideas. Like I'm like the idea of a butterfly and a calculator. I don't know, that could be fun. What if there's a calculator designed like a butterfly? Like this, actually looking at it now, like look at this. You know, this thing, it's like it flaps like a butterfly. No idea. If I was an industrial designer, maybe I could design something that was like that. Anyway, I encourage you to just keep your creativity unfettered. Come up, new ideas are there for you. And no one else has your particular ideas ever. So that is something to keep in mind, that you are unique. And I will see you hopefully in the next session. It'll be a webinar situation, so I won't see you on screen, but you'll be able to ask us questions in the Q&A. And then later in the day, we have the panelists with Janetta Gonzalez and Jackie Tahara and Kate Golding. And that one will be, again, kind of us discussing some ideas about creativity, but you'll be able to ask questions. And at the end of the day, I'm doing a portfolio review. And over 70 people have signed up. So I don't think we'll get through 70 portfolios, but we'll just see who volunteers first, and we'll do it first come, first serve for until I like tucker out and run out of steam. So hopefully you'll come back throughout the day. Feel free to use some of these creative prompts throughout the day if you're thinking of something to do, if you want to doodle while you're listening to the rest of us throughout the day. That's totally great. We'll see you soon, and take care. Thanks. Bye.